Good evening,
Okay.
and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Virtual Domain-Driven Design. I'm Zsofia. I'm trying to host today, and at the same time trying to do the facilitation on your comments and questions. So please feel free to go to Zoom or YouTube to ask questions. We are trying to discuss and answer that. And I'm also going to be involved in the discussions because we have a very interesting topic for today, which is basically how to grow your DDD community and how to do the DDD meetups and how to organize those. So we have Kacper here with us, and he's a huge expert of this topic. So Kacper, can you introduce yourself for us and how are you connected with the DDD community and meetups, please?
Sure. Thank you, Zsofia, and you put me on the spot here. Yes, I am Kacper. I'm the organizer and founder of DDD London meetup. I guess it's time to change the slide. So we've been running together with a couple of people the Domain-Driven Design London meetup for 4 years now. We'll have the 4th anniversary in January. It's going quite okay right now. We have a meetup more or less every month, sometimes even more often. And if you are ever in the area or in London for business or leisure, I would like to invite you to our meetup, either to speak or attend. So that's it, the word introduction for me, and going to check to Budapest now.
Zsofia, yeah, so basically I ran the DDD Budapest meetup group. I founded that 2 years ago, a bit more than 2 years ago, right after the first Kandinsky conference I attended. We have actually more than 500 members now, and we had, within these 2 years, we had 13 meetup, I believe, so meetup events. So that is what it is. The community is still growing, but we obviously face some challenges, which we are going to talk about today here.
All right. Just wanted to say that if you have any questions during the session, I think you can raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. And Zsofia is also monitoring the YouTube channel, so you should be able to ask questions there. Please do interrupt because it's a SunDDDay discussion and not a talk or a lecture. So yeah, we're just here to to talk about your questions and discuss your challenges and so on. All right. So that's the plan for today or for tonight, depending from where you are joining. We'll discuss why would you even start organizing meetup, then challenges such as finding speakers and people to run workshops and so on, then more technical questions and topics such as venues, sponsors, food, marketing, and so on. Then managing attendance, which can be fairly challenging with the no-shows, also creating safe environment for learning, collecting feedback, and then there is also some hot topics that we left for the very end. Right, shall we get started, Zsofia?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's start with why. I think that's the title of the book. That wasn't intentional. So, so as we were discussing with Zsofia, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to talk about tonight? Is that it is very important to know why you are doing, why you want to organize a meetup, and what's your motivation, and so on, and be honest about it, right? So you may want to learn from other people, so you probably have a lot of questions, and if you don't have a local community, you would be joining communities like this virtual one, which is great, and I think that Kani is doing a great job with running such a challenging meetup group. So that can be a first motivation. So then also learning from each other, having topics and questions to discuss, and getting to know other people in the community. These are all very important things because they will keep you. These things will keep you motivated with regards to learning more about domain-driven design, exploring all the topics that are interesting to you. Then, so that I would say that's the first group. Zsofia, so interrupt me if I'm not.
I was going to ask what was your motivation when you founded the community in London? So
okay. Sure. So the London community actually started after the first Domain-Driven Design Europe conference. So that was in 2016, I think 16. So that was in Brussels in January, and I went to the conference, and it was the first like big DDD conference that was targeted for the whole Europe, because we had other conference at the time in London. And I thought, okay, that's great that I'm at a conference now, but there is a huge community of people in London that do not have a place where they can go and meet and talk to each other. So I was okay, well, someone has to do it. If I don't do it, then maybe no one will. So that's how the community started, really.
Okay.
And I had, so one of the guys that's helping us with the domain-driven design in London, Arthur, has told me that if I don't have to speak at any of the first of the 3 events, that means it's going good, and that that we have speakers and there is interest. And I managed to never speak at my own meetups, which I think that. Well, I did run some sessions, but it was never like we're running short of topics and so on. So there is quite a lot of interest, and we try to plan at least 2 or 3 events ahead, and that helps the community going through, because every time you are meeting people for during one evening, you can say what's happening next month or even 2 months and so on. So I think that's very helpful. And that was my motivation. How about you, Zsofia?
Actually, it's very similar. It wasn't the DDD EU, okay. It was like 2 years later, the Kandinsky, or maybe just 1 year later, the first Kandinsky conference in Berlin, I think 2017. And when I came home, like I was facilitating a whole day workshop with Nick Kuhn there on the first Kandinsky conference. And I was like, I really want to bring these DDD to Hungarian audience, because we had nothing like DDD community before, no DDD topics on microservices meetup either. So I really wanted to bring these techniques, these very good ideas I found in DDD to the Hungarian people. So that's how, and that's why I actually founded the DDD meetup right after the Kandinsky conference in 2017.
Mm-hmm. And is it just yourself who's running this meetup? Okay.
And still just myself, but I try to really involve people, or try to convince people to help me out. But it's really hard. But I think we can discuss it, or we will be discussing this later on as well. But
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So the next thing that there is on the list, that's self-promotion. So I think that's also important, right? Because as you run the meetup group, you will be promoting yourself as a person that is interested in the topic, and you'll be growing yourself as an expert. So I think it's fair to say that that's one of the ways how you can build your own profile too. And I don't think there is anything to be ashamed of with saying that. So, there is a lot of people that are known in the community because they started the communities themselves. So if you are thinking about growing your own profile, I think that's also a healthy motivation to have. Just be honest about it. There are also some commercial drivers, and what we mean by that is that there might be companies that are interested in, recruitment or advertising in the community space. And although it wasn't for the DDD community, it was for some other community that I was running a couple of years ago. We had situations where commercial companies were trying to pretend, okay, we are running the meetup, but the primary driver was to promote the companies, not to grow the community. Which I also, it can also work, because there is, for example, in London, there is, I think, 2 or 3 Scala meetups for the programming language, and they're all run by some recruitment companies, and they're going well. It's just like another motivation, and can be explicit about it, I think is worth.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions from the attendees? I'm going to check.
I don't see any.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I think we have 5 attendees on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Okay, finding speakers. Zsofia, I will leave that to you.
Yeah, so like I was really lucky, because when I could arrange my first meetup event, actually in 2017, around November, December, I don't really remember the time. I was lucky because with Stefan Hofer, who is basically the founder of the domain storytelling technique. Basically, we could arrange that he came to Budapest, and he ran a 3-hour-long workshop on my first DDD meetup event, which was a great start, I think, because he came over to from Vienna to Budapest, and he ran this workshop as a first one, so people could see like what interesting techniques this domain-driven design has, and basically this is how I could kick off the whole meetup journey, and this was great. However, we could just arrange the meetup to have it in the early afternoon, which is not that lucky situation with the meetups, I know, but because of the train schedule and Stefan's schedule, we could only do this. But still, like 30 or 40 people showed up, which is great, I think. And also he ran this domain storytelling workshop, which was very interesting for all the Hungarians showing up, because they haven't heard about that, and neither about DDD before. So
Okay.
yeah, that was a great start, I think. And how about yours?
So I started by looking by engaging people that I knew that have something to do with domain-driven design. So for the first meetup, I think I asked a friend that was sharing us, who was doing some work related to event sourcing. So he presented about that. And I would say that I think 60-70% of our talks and evenings were because we, and I mean primarily Nick and myself, proactively reach out to people and ask them to come and speak at the meetup.
That's great.
We also have the CFP form where people can submit talks to Domain-Driven Design London. I think only 3 people ever did. So that's, you know, it's there. I promote it from time to time, but I don't expect really people to submit there. There's I think, like, you know, reaching out and being proactive really works. And what I want to say though is that, okay, London is in a unique and lucky position where we have a lot of technical events, conferences. People are traveling for business a lot here, so it's easier for me to reach out to people and ask them to come to a meetup because they're already in town. Yeah. But I think even for like, you know, smaller places, Budapest is not a small place. it's a beautiful city that I can recommend, and I loved it. But I do realize it may be more challenging, you know, to.
Come speakers, come here, or the speaker.
Yeah, but for any other place in Europe, I would recommend. Okay, look at the events that you have in the area. Look at the people that have something to do with DDD. Maybe not like strictly about DDD, but maybe, I don't know, functional programming. That's a big topic in the management design community. Ask someone who is a functional programming expert to come and speak at your meetup.
Yeah, and also use the opportunity when there is a speaker from other countries in your town, in your city, and maybe ask them to like come and give a presentation on your meetup, because I was really lucky 2 times already. Kevlin Henny basically said to me like he will be in Budapest because he does some trainings and whatever, whether I want to do any meetups and set up any meetup events, and then he can come and talk on that. So I was so surprised and happy about that. So I immediately set up the meetup event, and Kevlin Henny came, and obviously a lot of people came because a lot of people wanted to hear Kevlin Henny. He is a superstar in DDD, I think, and in these meetups. So it was really a good thing for my meetup that he could come and talk there twice already. So that was great. Or 3 times? It's 3 times already, I think. Yeah, so even better.
Yeah.
We also have a question here, basically. Just finish, and then I come back with question.
No, please go with question.
Okay, so how do you find people traveling for business? Any tips?
Any tips? Well, so the people that are traveling for business, usually some of them are friends, and they will just reach out and say they are in town. So I think the tip would be to grow your network, go to conferences, get to know people, and then reach out to them if you see they are traveling. That would be my tip. Also, you can look at look at Twitter, for example, at the DDD design hashtag, maybe you will see that people are going somewhere to do like, a workshop or something like that. So that would be another recommendation. Or also, like, for example, I would be very happy to travel anywhere in the UK to just do a talk at the meetup, or maybe to do a workshop if it's somewhere close and so on. So if there is anyone from the UK that is thinking about starting a meetup, just reach out to me and we can arrange that. So be proactive.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we talk about this second main bullet point about the format? And Zsofia, I think you have something to say about the cultural preferences here.
Yeah, so basically I ran a survey very recently about the meetup, so about speakers, so in terms of like format and whatever. And regarding the format, basically it came out that Hungarian audience so like the talks much more than the workshops or hands-on sessions, and as the opposite, so the foreigner people or people, non-Hungarian people, like the workshops and hands-on formats much better than the talks. So that can be a Hungarian cultural thing. Like, we really don't like to be proactive or like to be like active on workshops, and we don't really like to we don't like people to pay attention to us and these kind of cultural things. It really comes from there, I think, and that's why the majority of Hungarian audience, or at least who feel that in my survey, said that basically talks, they prefer talks rather than the workshops.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, whenever I was in foreign countries and on conferences or workshops, I really liked the enthusiasm in people abroad and there. So like they really wanted to participate. They enjoyed these activities and they really like to be active and proactive. So it's very different.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's much easier to get bigger audience for the talk, and I can expect up to 100 people to show up for a talk, but for the workshop, sometimes we have to limit the space, but sometimes just like 20 or 30 people will show up for the workshop. So I think there is a difference, and as you are saying, there might be a cultural preference, and also I think it might be also the fact that community itself, if there are people that they know each other and they feel safer, maybe they will be more willing to be engaged and participate. So
yeah.
So yeah, we have like three main formats on the list. Well, one is workshop that we already talked about, and I think I wouldn't recommend starting with workshops because they can get a bit overwhelming with regards to like setup and preparation and things like that. So if you just want to start, having like a small audience for a talk, that might be the easiest thing to start with, or even a discussion. I do know some groups that just meet regularly for a chat in a pub, and that's also a good way to start the community, or to review some papers or talk about some hot topics. So these three ways can be good to start the community.
I really can recommend for the discussion point. I really can recommend the Word Cafe format. You can check it online what it means and how it goes, but it's a great one. I mean, I'm just, if you want to do a discussion kind of meetup.
Okay, and the last thing is that once you found the speaker, then you'll be able to set the limit of attendees, confirm the setup, the format, and all things like that. And that's what you need, because then you'll have to arrange a venue.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to mention one second. So we got very interesting tips on YouTube, basically. So if you are a DDD local meetup organizer, you could like strive to promote other DDD meetups from other countries or within the same country in other cities, which is a great idea, actually. So for instance, having an up-to-date map with all the meetups around the globe and presenting it at the beginning of the meetup So cross-promote the meetups, I think. That's
Exactly.
great idea. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, I think in Poland there is a huge DDD community that there is like at least if in the 5 major cities there is a meetup, and there is like also DDD Poland community. So I think they're doing a great job there. Well done.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, venues. Okay, I think I can start because there is skills matter on the list. So to be honest, from my perspective, the easiest way was to work with a community like Skills Matter. Okay, Skills Matter was a commercial organization, but they had a really strong drive to support the community, so that was really convenient for us. I know there are other communities like that or similar to that, such as Hackerspace, that are willing to share venues for free with communities. So if you do have an organization like that in your town or in your city, I think it's worth reaching out. Even though maybe they don't do anything like that at the moment, they might be able to help you with the venue.
Yeah.
Then pubs, restaurants. That's also an option, but from my point of view and from my experience, there is often money involved. So pubs often wants to have certain amount of money to be spent or put on the tab or something like that. So that might be a bit challenging because as an organizer of something that's done for the community, you might not have resources to do that. But it's also worth reaching out, because if it's not a busy night and you want to have a table for 20 in a pub, they will be happy to book it for you for free because they'll have business, right?
That's true.
Zsofie?
I just wanted to add that, yeah, it's very good to have meetup in pubs. Actually, I already tried it out and it worked very well. But also, I wanted to add, like, it's very convenient if you work at a company where they actually can and want or willing to organize meetups, or if not organize, but provide a place for the meetups, and even better if they have workshop things like whiteboards and everything you need for doing a workshop. So it's very convenient if you work at a company like this, because at least the venue is provided almost always. I always need to check, but I also work at a company where this is provided, and it's very convenient and very, very good to have a place where we can every time workshop if we want, so or do hands-on session if you want, because whiteboards are available in a larger number, Sharpies, Post-its, whatever. So we really need to take care about the food only. But yeah, this is a huge other question and topic as well about the food, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I totally can relate to the companies. So at the moment, because Skills Matter went past, we have to find alternative venues in London, and we did find a couple of companies happy to host us. So that's also possible, and they are usually also quite willing to sponsor some drinks and food. So I think that's a good first choice for most of the people if you do know some companies willing to sponsor meetups. One thing that I want that's like in the middle on the list, that's school and local governments or universities. I think that's also a very good place to look for the venue. I think we have on the participant list one of the meetup organizers from Poland who used to organize on the PHP meetups at local university, and university was willing to give the space for free, and that was a great space. So that might be another place to look for a venue. And outdoors, Zsofie, you have experience with outdoors.
Yeah, once we did a outdoor meetup, but it was like just a discussion like meetup. So we just had a discussion outside of buildings, so in a park. It was great. So not too many people showed up. It was a very pleasant weather, and it was like great to sit in the grass there and just talk about things like DDD, let's say. So you can use really, if you have a good weather like in spring or in summer, you can just organize a discussion within your meetup, and it's great to just people get together and talk about these things in under the sky, basically.
Okay. Sponsors. So I think you may need a sponsor for a number of things, where the most obvious ones are the venue itself, and then food and drinks. And then another reason why you might need a sponsor is to be able to bring some speakers to town. So there might be companies willing to pay for travel and accommodation for speakers just so that they can come and do a talk the evening for the meetup. So I think the other reason why you may need a sponsor is the marketing expenses and meetup.com subscription. I think we'll be talking about meetup.com later as well, but that can cost some money too. I think it's like $100 a year, something like that at the moment. The meetup subscription.
For a year or for like
a year?
I think it's like
for half a year, something like that. It's not cheap.
Yeah, 60. Yeah, 60 for half a year, something like that. 60 something for half a year.
I'm wrong because they have two pricing models for London, UK, and like basically the rich countries they charge more. For other countries they charge less. So yeah.
So how much is it there?
I think it's like $100 for 6 months or something like that.
Yeah, it's also like $60. It's not that much, but if you need to pay that yourself, it's like it can be painful sometimes.
Right. So now let's think who can pay this for us, so that we don't have to pay ourselves. So the companies that we mentioned earlier, the recruitment companies, they may want to be able to promote at your meetup because you have the brightest minds in the tech community, people that think about DDD. So it's a good market. You have to sell it the right way, but I think that's a good target for recruitment companies, and also some training companies may be willing to do the same thing. Then companies that are renting spaces, so that would be more in the context of the venue sponsorship. So say, I think WeWork is offering spaces for meetups for free through meetup.com because WeWork owns Meetup. So that might be one of the reasons why they want to be able to give you the space for free. And then also the places like accelerators. So in major tech hubs, there will be like Google and other companies that do have startup accelerators and other things that also have space that it's worth reaching out to. So for example, we had one meetup at Red Hat Labs, which is like a startup accelerator, and they have a great space because it's well suited for creative and work and collaboration and so on. And we had all the wall space we needed for event storming. So that's great to go to.
Yeah. Basically, I want to try the first point you mentioned here. So like the recruiting, so aim the companies to be like sponsors or as potential sponsors of DDD meetups, like who is going to recruit or want to recruit, which companies want to recruit like people working in the technology. So yeah, this is what I will try because I really need some sponsors for the DDD meetup.
So I think what you can give in return for the sponsorship is like shout out during the event, some leaflets or other marketing materials. Also, if you have mailing list or social media accounts or anything like that, that can be a good way to promote these people in return for the financial support. One recommendation that I would have is if you want to ask a company for help, be very specific what you need. Say, okay, we need help with a venue. Can you either pay for it, which costs X? So do research yourself and find out how much the venue costs, or and tell it to them, or say you want to bring a speaker and the travel and accommodation is, I don't know, £200. It will be much easier discussion for them to have as well and see if they have budget for that or not, rather than maybe we could sponsor you, but be specific.
Yeah.
Okay, food and drink.
Nice topic.
Okay, so the rule of thumb I have in London is that I don't organize it unless there is a company willing to provide it for me, because it's extra overhead, and also there is like this. There are people that are going to meetups just to get fat, really, and I don't want these people in the meetup. That's the end of the story. Especially in London, when there is meetups every night, and you don't have to spend any money on food if you don't want to. So,
I want to introduce the same.
Okay, so I think, like, having access to like some drinks at a minimum, and toilets and so on, that's very good thing to have. So at least like some water, that would be great. Usually, office spaces have these water fountains or water bottles, so that should be easy to arrange. And then you can ask people to bring their own food. I wouldn't stress about organizing a meetup and thinking that you don't have food and drinks provided. It's nice to have, not must to have.
Yeah.
Well, if you do plan to order something, like, say like some pizza or like any takeaway food, just be mindful of people having allergies or some dietary requirements and so on. Label things appropriately, because you don't want people having some allergy reactions at your meetup because you didn't take care of that. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Oh, and the last thing would be to confirm with venue that it is okay to order some food, because some people or some venues may have some policies around bringing food to certain spaces.
Yeah, definitely. So I really want to go into that direction, what you just mentioned. So I don't really want to arrange food myself. So I don't really want to pay for it always. I either announce that it will be a brown bag session, so they can bring food, or if they don't bring, they don't bring, but there won't be any food provided. Or if also what you mentioned, so when the company, the sponsor would pay for us, that would be perfect, but if not, then not. So we shouldn't stress about that. There are definitely people who just come because of the food. I really realized that in the past, so this is this is the case.
Okay, do we have any questions on YouTube? I'm looking at the
I just have a not regards to this particular topic, but how often do you think introductory DDD talks are needed? My impression is that some advanced or specific topics may back out, and thus it's harder to grow the community. We can discuss that now if you like, or
yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, because
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that will depend really on the community, and if people are asking for talks like that, and I think it's worth doing. I don't have a good answer, to be honest, because each topic will attract different audience, right? So we had like a CQRS and event sourcing in Python last week, and we had like 25 or 30 people and these were for most part different people that we had at the session 2 weeks before, which was more programming meetup. So that will depend on people, and I wouldn't be wouldn't worry about the fact that, okay, if we do the intro session every half a year or every 3 months, then people will stop coming. It's just like, if someone doesn't like the topic, they won't come. If you do these sessions and people are not coming, maybe it means that there is no need to run these introductory sessions. So, but I would say ask first, ask your attendees, ask on whatever community channels or social media channels you have, if there is an appetite for a session like that.
Yeah, in Hungary it was needed quite a few times, because as I mentioned before, like DDD wasn't a popular topic here, so you definitely want or might want to have these introductory sessions. But yeah, so it shouldn't be like too often. You should really, what you just mentioned, Kacper, like ask your audience what they want or need.
Any more questions?
Nope.
Okay, so what's on the next slide? I don't know, I don't have a preview, so
Marketing.
Marketing. Okay, I'll let you lead now, Sophie.
Okay, I was just really thinking about what I wanted to mention here, but I really, when I announced a meetup, I also announce it on Twitter and LinkedIn. I don't use Facebook yet, basically, but it could be a good idea to actually advertise it on Facebook as well. I'm thinking about that. Word of mouth, yeah, obviously, but I don't really have that bigger community here yet. However, we have more than 500 members, but on my meetups, really, there are like 20 or at most 30, but it's really at most showing up. But we are going to talk about show ups later. So yeah, how I just advertise, and I also advertise at the company where I'm working. So like in internal chats and these kind of office chats where all the employees can see, I advertise it. And yeah, basically, if it's hosted in the at the company's venue, then more people usually come from the company as well as the external attendees. I really like how Meetup announces how you can advertise your Meetup through meetup.com. So it's great, I think, that everyone gets notified about that. However, what I really find difficult is like whenever there is an update on your Meetup. So for instance, when you announce your Meetup and then later on 2-3 weeks later, you change the venue or the time or whatever, you change something, then it's very hard to actually notify your audience about that because Meetup doesn't do these update notifications. But that's all I have regarding the meetup.com. I think it's the advertisement there is fine for me, I think.
Yeah, I think that works quite well. And we are getting a lot of people that I would never meet or would never be able to reach out to via the meetup.com. So although there is a lot of things to complain about the meetup itself, or the platform, I think there is also that's the biggest strength, is that they do have and they are able to reach people that you wouldn't be otherwise able to. What else? One thing that I didn't add here is the DDD Secures ES Slack channel. And I think that's also a great way to advertise and reach out to people. And you can ask on Meetups channel or on general if there's anyone from City X willing to come or do a meetup or just meet in a pub and talk about DDD. I think that would be a great place to start if you're alone. So with regards to meetup.com, I said that there is a lot of bad things. So maybe I will mention that as from the organizer's perspective, is that first, collecting feedback, it's not so easy, but we'll be touching on that later. Second is that the editor, for example, that you can just enter text there, so you cannot really easily attach images or format text or things like that. Half of the platform is using new design, half is using the old design, and so you cannot display your sponsors unless you pay for like Super Pro subscription, which costs a lot of money, and things like that. And the basic thing is that you will get it for free. So it's like this bait and hook business model where where you can start a community and have up to 50 people for free in the community, which is fairly easy to do even for a small city. And then beyond that point, you have to start paying. So that's something to be mindful of.
Yeah.
With Twitter, I think you can ask people that from the area to retweet things and promote your meetup. I think that will work well. Facebook I used quite a lot in the past to organize events back in Poland, and that worked well too. LinkedIn, I think if you have good audience, absolutely. Okay.
There is a question not regarding to marketing, but what time of the year would you consider a bad time to run meetups? For instance, July and August are usually bad as everyone is on holiday and attendance is low. Same I find is true for December. And it's interesting because I had that survey I already mentioned to you today, and it came out that much more people attend a meetup in June than in October, for instance, or than in March. But it came out that later that it's it's fake. So like basically I ran the survey again, and it came out that it's half. So like people, so there are no really difference between June and March or between June and October. But my previous survey, and based on my meetup attendances and reports on that, it brought up that it would be much better to do a meetup in June than in another time. But it was strange for me, because that for instance, that's why that many people could be on holidays already in June. So it's a data that it's I don't think it's a something we can learn from, because it's just a hectic one. So I don't know. The short answer is I don't really know, but I would think the same what Barry actually said here. Like in the summer, obviously more people are on vacation, and also in December. However, sometimes you cannot really select your meetup date, but it just finds you, because what I mentioned already. So like when a Kevlin Henny or when a Stefan Hofer just comes to say whether there is a meetup, or I can set up a meetup and they can come and talk, it's an opportunity that you need to grab, right? And you cannot really say when it should be. But what's your opinion on that?
I think I definitely agree with December, because it's, the Christmas parties and people, getting ready for the holiday season and things like that. So although I say that we have the meetup on 16th of December because we have, so.
And we on the 19th.
Yeah, so I'm just contradicting my own words. But the reason why it might be harder is that companies are also not, there is Q&A, one question. Can you have a look at that?
Yeah,
Zsofia?
I've been a huge, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You can continue.
Okay, so it will impact your the venue availability, because companies, the HR departments or whatever. So these are the people that you're usually dealing with when you need a venue from a company. They're not willing to add any extra burden on themselves during the holiday season. So that might be one of the reasons. And for the summer, I think the perception is, at least from my point of view, that if you have a choice to go to a meetup in July or August when it's nice and sunny outside, and you can sit in the garden or something like that, or go to a room full of people and talk about tech things, people might just prefer to go to and sit outside and.
Yeah, and actually that's why it's good, right? To have a meetup in summer, to sit outside or to sit in pubs or whatever, and have a talk, have a discussion.
Okay.
So the main part of the question here in Zoom is like, I'm curious, what was your initial push to actually do it? I mean, founding a meetup. So what was your main driver? I think what I mentioned at the beginning, my main driver was that so DDD was really unknown in Hungary, and there weren't any DDD meetup or any DDD communities here. And also I attended a great DDD conference. And basically when I came home from there, I really wanted to show these great techniques I learned in the conference for people, and the DDD patterns, and bring all these DDD things to the Hungarian audience. That's why I basically founded the meetup.
Okay, yeah, a similar story for me, where I came from the conference, pumped, okay, let's start the community here in London, because there was no community back then. So I basically wanted to bring people together and share the knowledge with each other. So that was my main driver. And well, we discussed that at the start of the meetup. So Thomas, maybe you want to look at that later too. Maybe that will give you some extra ideas. But if you are thinking about it and you have at least one other person, I would just go and sit, have a beer, and start doing that. It doesn't have to be a big thing. You don't have to have a lot of admin stuff on your hand if you start the meetup. Okay. Announcing meetups. Oh yeah, so I think that would also help to answer Thomas's question, is because if you have a predictable schedule for your meetups, say you meet up every month and you announce meetups for like 2 or 3 months in advance, that helps the audience to plan their own time and whether they will be able to come or not. Also announcing as early as you can does help. So if you announce meetup a week in advance, it might be a bit problematic, but I did notice that if I announce a meetup or a talk like 2 or 3 months in advance, I got much better attendance than like shorter. Than if the meetup was announced in shorter amount of time before the event.
Yeah.
So
we also have another question. Do you know about any initiative to run workshops about DDD in the Netherlands? I'm not sure what we mean on initiative here, but maybe Kenny would be the best person to answer this in the Netherlands. Or
yeah, so the guy that's running this virtual DDD meetup, Kenny Schwegler, he is based in Amsterdam, as far as I know, and is running the Amsterdam DDD community or helping with it. I think Marijn, I'm not going to attempt to say his surname, sorry.
No, I cannot either.
So Marijn is also involved in the Amsterdam DDD community, so I would suggest to reach out to them. And then there is also a community in Belgium. There is a whole bunch of people involved in Belgium.
Yeah, not me.
So maybe you can also reach out to the Belgian guys.
I'm going to insert their Twitter names into YouTube chat. Okay.
All right. Attendee management.
How nice topic.
Yeah. So reason you want to manage that is that you will want to be able to predict how many people will come, so that you can make sure that the venue is big enough, you have enough food or drinks if you are planning to provide this. So there is a number of ways which you can do that. The default one, at least for me, is the meetup.com. As I said, I did use Facebook in the past, but I didn't do that recently, so I don't know if that's still useful or not. There is also Eventbrite and Session. I see there's another question. I will answer that in a minute. So primarily this is you can communicate with people that will be coming to a meetup. You can confirm the place, how to get to the building. So that's important, because sometimes it's quite confusing how to get to the place or how to talk to at the building security and so on. And it will also help you to manage the no-shows, which is, I think, next topic. Yeah, next topic. So yeah, that's it from my perspective. Sophie?
I'm just looking at my notes. Maybe I have, no, there were problematic attendees basically in my, so meetup.com basically support, or not supports, this is the wrong word, I think. So you can remove members from your meetup, which means that they won't get notification about meetups anymore, whatever. You might want to do this because that attendee bothers or disturbs your meetup, or there can be many reasons. I just faced with this in the past, and you are able to ban people, or you are able to remove people from your meetup member list. But and it's basically a capability of meetup.com you can do through that. Yeah, I think I just wanted to mention this. I'm not sure about Eventbrite and Sessionize, because I've never used that for attendee management or for meetup management, and Facebook neither. So actually, yeah, I only have experience.
Yeah, I think these are just alternatives that you may want to look at if you don't want to pay for meetup.com. Really. Okay, I know there is so there was a drama like a month or 2 months ago related to meetup.com. I think we'll talk about that later. And I know there is a number of startups that are trying to replicate what meetup.com does, but I have no experience with this. So if anyone does, or if anyone used these alternatives, I know there is one, I think, Turkish startup that they managed to get a lot of meetups from Istanbul and so on to sign up on their website, and I think it seems to be quite popular, but I don't have any experience with that. So maybe there is a a tool or a website that's more localized that you can use to promote your events. That's just another suggestion. Okay, so the question from Thomas was, how much time do you spend per month on running a local meetup? Zsofia?
How much time? Well, per month.
Where's your timesheet?
Yeah, I'm just thinking because many of our meetups or of DDD Budapest meetups are run by me, or I'm many times I'm the facilitator there. I do a workshop, hands-on session or whatever, but yeah, and then I need to prepare and I need to like do the talk itself for the workshop. So then few hours, so I can say like then 4 or 5 hours. But it's not always the case, so it's not typical in running meetups that you are the one always who is really doing the session itself. So in many cases it's just like you need to arrange the meetup and the speaker and whatever you need to arrange, and that's all. And it would mean a 2 hour per month, I think, and with all the advertisements and all the organizing activities, like for me it's not more than 2 hours when I'm not facilitating but I'm just organizing.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think when this time starts getting out of hand is when you need to start find a new venue, for example. So we had a good relationship with Skills Matter in the past, and all I really needed to do was to send an email to them and ask, hey, do you have a room like that on that date? And they were saying yes or no, and that was really it. And if they didn't have the venue, they usually proposed alternative dates, and that was end of the story. I was able just to, they announced meetup and show up, and the venue was there for me, so that was amazing. And now, for example, that we don't have this venue and arrangement, every time I need to arrange a new venue, that can be quite time-consuming, because say if you run a workshop, I would never run a workshop in a place that I've never seen before, it's a place that I see first time in my life, or there is no one that I trust that can confirm the place is nice. So traveling there, checking that everything is okay, that can be quite time-consuming.
That's a good point, actually.
And yeah, it also depends on the city, because in London, going and traveling and checking the venue sometimes means good couple of hours of a trip to get there. So I know, for example, in Denver, the community there has a really good deal too with one of the recruitment agencies. I think that's recruitment agency. Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong. Where they're just hosted there, and they have good agreement that they can come in the evenings, have meetups there. They will leave the space clean and as they had it to be used, and I think that's quite good agreement to have, and that reduces the admin and the time spent.
It was a great place, right? Yeah, we had a meetup there in September, right?
Yeah, September.
That's great.
Okay.
Those places missing from Hungary, actually. These kind of places where you can really have a deal with and go whenever you want to go and do a meetup there. Anyways.
Okay, Thomas, I hope that answers the question. If not, ask again, please. No shows.
Oh.
Okay. So as you announced the meetup, lots of people will tell they will come and see the speaker, but in reality, not everyone comes. And usually, from my experience, depending on where it's hosted, how early in advance it's announced, and so on, the rate of people that do show up is about 50 to 60%. At least that's my experience based on last 5 events. And that can be, if you are planning a meetup for 100 people and you arrange everything for 100 people, prepare chairs and things like that, and then only 50 people will show up, that's basically wasted effort. So I always try to account for it. So say we have a workshop where we can host 20 people, then I say I'm going to open RSVPs for 35 or 40, so that naturally we'll have about the number we want at the meetup. So I think that's the best way so far that I came up with how to manage the no-shows. I don't know what's your experience, Zsofia.
Yeah, actually, with reminder emails, I'm sending 2 days, typically 2 days before the meetup. I could really reduce the average no-show rate to 32% in my meetup case, which is fine, I think. So it was much higher rate previously when I didn't really send out any reminder emails. But based on the survey, I already mentioned before, based on the survey, when people don't show up on meetups, it's mostly because they don't have time to amend their RSVP, or they just simply don't feel like bothering with changing the RSVP, which is really disappointing, I think, for me. So like it's not that difficult on meetup.com, for instance, go there and just change RSVP to no, but many people just answer that they don't want to bother with changing their RSVP in these cases, which is really disappointing.
Okay. I do know some organizers that ban people after 1 or 2 no-shows. I don't do that personally because that's something that I don't believe in the sense, it's a community. Let's be nice and relax about it. And I try to manage that from my perspective, as compensating for the people that won't show. But I do know some organizers use it because I can relate to that they feel disappointed that they put money, effort, and time into it, and then someone just doesn't show up and can be bothered with changing yes to no. So why would you want such person at the meetup? So I think it's up to you how you want to manage that. Sad topic, right?
Yeah, if I would do bans, so if I would ban someone because not showing up, it would be like after, if they won't show up after 5 or 6 occasions. So like not after 1 or 2, but 5 or 6 occasions. They just say that they are coming, but they won't, and they have no reason and whatever. So I would do that. But meetup.com really don't have the capability to, or doesn't have the capability to support this. Like you cannot have a look at these kind of no-show statistics, I think. You can just individually go to meetup events and then see who hasn't shown up and whatever, but the other way around, you cannot do that. Like looking at the statistics, who didn't show up for many times and whatever. So you need to do that one by one, and it's very overkill, I think.
Yeah, there is like a running joke in the community of London meetup organizers, because there is one guy that's called Ravi that's responding to every single meetup in the town, and he didn't show up to a single one, I think. But almost every meetup organizer I know knows about Ravi, knows showing.
Wow.
So okay, recording, streaming, and photos. Right, so with recording and streaming, I think that's a bit tricky, and I know there are some laws around, taking photos and of attendees and so on, and I think that will depend a lot on the country. So check what are the laws in your country, and especially with regards how to use these photos later. Then also for recordings, check with speakers if they are okay with being filmed, because some are not, and it's just a courtesy, but make sure they are happy with it. And for most part, they will be. And there is also some venues or companies will have their own rules. Okay, say you can be here and can attend the meetup, but you shouldn't take photos of the spaces around, because they have some branding around, and they don't want to be necessarily associated or pictures of these spaces to be published online. So do check things like that. With streaming, I didn't stream anything recently. I know it can be as simple as using, for example, Facebook and put your phone there. So I don't think it's that complicated, especially now. It's nearly 2020 and technology is catching up. so that's fairly simple. Recording can also be very simple. We used the phone last time. Okay, it's a bad angle, bad sound type of video, but if someone wants to learn, they will learn. So I think it's nice to film things and put them online if you have capacity to do so. It doesn't have to be anything professional.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Nope, not from my side now.
There is a question from Thomas. I would like to record audio and video at my meetups. Does meetup provide storage to keep past full recordings for replay? I'm not aware of capability on meetup.com that allows to store videos there. What we use in London is youtube.com.
Yeah, I don't think it provides it anymore. Maybe it provided in the past, but I don't think it's possible anymore, because they even restricted the photo functionality. So you can upload photos of your meetup, but you cannot like store any other photos there, like regarding the meetup, but not specifically to your meetups. I don't remember exactly, but there was time like a few months ago or maybe a year ago where they stopped providing capabilities like uploading photos not specifically related to any meetup event or something like this. So they also became some more restricted on the photo side. So I don't think they allow to store videos there, but or keep it there. But I will check. I will check.
Yeah, well, I think the other alternative to YouTube would be Vimeo, and I think some other sites, but they're much less popular. So I think YouTube would be my default.
Yeah, I think so.
Safe environment. So that's something that you already talked about, Zsofia, that you had to ban someone because
unfortunately
the behavior wasn't appropriate. I had such situation as well, where we had a drunk attendee, and then I had to tell the person off. I would just say that you can try to manage that situation, but I would also say that you also have, as an organizer, you have to manage your own energy. So don't stress too much about excluding people if they are not following your rules.
Yeah, agreed.
Recommendation.
Agreed. We had a guy that I don't want to go into details, but who I needed to ban out. It was similar like your Ravi in London. So like everyone knew about him, like every meetup organizer knew that he is going to ruin the meetup and bother everyone and whatever. And a lot of Hungarian meetup communities already banned him. And actually, yeah, me too later on, because I was trying to have him on meetups, and but it didn't work out well, unfortunately.
So we put code of conduct on the list, but to sum it up, like the behavior that I expect from people coming to the meetup is basically to be nice to each other. Don't assume that any racial or anything backgrounds. Just be nice to each other and behave as human beings, and I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, great.
We shouldn't be telling people how to behave, but some people have to.
Unfortunately, yes.
So last thing that I didn't properly research yet, I did ask some questions, is regarding the insurance. And I know it might be the last thing that people think about when they organize meetups, but there might be some public liability related things. So say someone attends your meetup and breaks a leg or something like that and then sues you. So I'm not saying it ever happened and it is going to happen, but the recommendation or suggestion that I've got from Dan Warren, I think, on Slack, was that it's good to check with the venue what's their policy with regards to things like that, because most venues that are companies or public spaces, they will have some insurance in place. But that's something that will be also country specific. So I'm not saying stress too much about it, but keep in mind that you may need something like insurance in place to protect yourself from people that, from accidents, basically.
Thank you for the tip. Actually, I need to consider this as well. I haven't thought about that previously.
There is a question: would an umbrella insurance be sufficient? I have no idea, Thomas. Sorry. Especially like in the countries that that I'm not resident in. So maybe I'm sure there is some free legal advice somewhere for non-profit organizations, because meetups are non-profit, so you may be able to ask there.
That's a good question, actually. Yeah.
What else? Feedback, I think, and that's the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so feedback. Meetup.com is particularly good at collecting feedback, and if you would like to ask some more specific questions and things like that, or questions like get some actual feedback that's helpful for you, I don't think that's the best platform. And honestly, the best way to collect the feedback for me is to just ask the attendees to fill a form or talk with them about it. That way you will get something useful. If you just ask people to rate a meetup on a scale from 1 to 10 and people will tell you 7, you will feel good about yourself, but it won't allow you to improve, right? Or if you get 3, you'll feel bad because something is wrong, but you don't know what's wrong. So, asking people about their feelings might be more direct and will probably provide more value for you as an organizer. Sophie?
Yeah, the only statistical data I have here from my surveys is that more people give feedback for hands-on session than for talks. And also that majority of people, at least here in Hungary, it's the cumulated result. So majority of people, like 70%, give feedback only when they enjoyed the meetup, which is actually bad news for the meetup organizers, because we really want to get feedback especially when something is not okay or it could be improved. But seems like majority of people rather give feedback when they enjoyed the meetup, which is still great that getting feedback in that case, but I would really appreciate to get feedback when there were things that could be improved on the meetup.
So there is a question: are there mobile live questions up where the presentation is going on? I'm sure there are, because I've seen it used on conferences. I never used it myself. I think usually the meetup itself is small enough that you can interrupt speaker or ask during the meetup. That I didn't see a need, but if you think that's going to be useful for your audience, then try it out and let us know.
Yeah.
How to encourage giving feedback? Sophie, any ideas how to encourage that?
That's a hard part. That's the hardest part, I would say. So I would really encourage with emails maybe, but maybe people would hate that. I was thinking about this a lot recently, especially, and I don't know, because meetup.com actually right after a meetup happens, meetup.com sends out a email, I think, how was the meetup, and there you have the chance to rate the meetup, on a 5-star rating scale, which is maybe not the best, but still something. So you have very handy options to rate or give feedback immediately after the meetup, and still people don't really do that. So I'm not sure what would be the right solution here, because just spamming them with emails from meetup or through meetup.com by me, for instance, by the meetup organizer, I don't know. I don't think that's a good solution. I don't really have a good idea on this, I think, because I would do like Google Forms, like surveys, how was the meetup, and some specific questions, not just like how was the meetup on a scale rating, but also like what should I do better next time or whatever. But I think people would just feel it's a spam, like after each meetup. I don't know. How do you do that?
So sorry, before I answer there, Thomas wrote that give them feedback or make them give feedback before you hand out pizza. So motivate people somewhat. And I think exactly what you said as we were preparing for this session, that what happens at Kandinsky is that people can rate using colored Post-it note or colored cards, something like that. Usually at the, like, if I work with my clients or the trainings or something like that, I just lock people in the room and don't let them out until they give the feedback. But I don't think that's going to work at the meetup.
Yeah. Actually, that color feedback can work very well because it's very visual. I haven't tried it on my meetups, but I definitely will. I mean, we discussed it previously, I think, and I really wanted to try it out because it's easy, right? So you just put their green and yellow and red cards next to the exit maybe, and they can just put the proper one in the box, how they felt like. That's pretty fun.
So with the questions, I would try. Oh, there is another one. Yeah. I have seen tokens being handed out when they turn in feedback, and then at the end, the sponsors give out small prizes. That's a good idea. I like that.
If you have sponsors.
Yeah, like, you know, a token for a drink or something like that. Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
Yeah, that's good suggestion. Post suggestions like that more. That's good. What else? With the feedback, ask the questions that you want to get answered, so that, you know, if you want to learn if the venue was good or if the time of the meetup was good or things like that, ask really specific questions. You know, asking if people liked something, they will tell you whether they liked it or not. But, you know, have a reason why you collect this feedback, and let this feedback improve your work and your meetups. Okay, last slide. Hot topics. Skills matter. We did talk about that. So
I can give some update on the second one. So on the meetup.com subscription changes, it's a recent information from one of the organizer guys who actually maybe, so they got in touch with meetup.com anyways. So meetup.com said that payment change is currently only a limited test for selected groups in a smaller number of locations. Groups in the test will receive advance notice before any change goes into effect. Meetup.com will always contact people if there are changes to their subscription. This is very important, I think. And Meetup serves a wide variety of groups and members, like nonprofit groups, and we are exploring personalized solution based on each group's unique goals and types of events. So there were some gossips about, like, meetup.com is going to charge. First, the gossip was about organizers after RSVPs, but then the gossip was that they are going to charge the attendees after RSVPs because they want to, like, give less. So they don't want the organizers to be the one who always pay for everything, and they would want to charge the attendees as well. And for these gossips, let's say, I just had these answers what I just read out, but that's all I have now. So it's just for test groups yet, and it's just selected test groups, and I'm not in one, so I don't know any more information about that. But I really hope so. If they would charge, even if they would charge just the attendees after the RSVPs, it would maybe lower down the, you know, the attendance. But I'm not sure, so I don't want to.
Yeah, well, so that was someone tweeted that, but the actual change was posted on their website and their terms of and conditions that they are going to charge like $1 or $2 per RSVP, which would be a massive blow for all the organizers, I think. I also, so other thing that I looked at was there is, I think, two models how we can pay for meetup.com. One is this basic subscription where you just pay like every half a year, like set amount, and then it's, I think, for up to 3 groups that you can organize. And then there is also meetup.pro, for which you have to pay monthly. Which is, and I think that's a bit more to pay monthly than normal payment per like 6 months. But they also said that meetup.pro is not going to be affected by these changes. So if these changes go ahead at some point, I think maybe looking at meetup.pro would also be an option, but that means it costs more. So, and if not, I'm sure there will be an alternative at some point. It's not like we can't organize meetups without meetup.com.
Yeah, but thanks for the updates.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that's it from us. Hour 20 minutes. That's not bad.
Just 10 because I had the technical difficulties. Let's say we don't. I don't want to talk about anymore. Yeah, we just over 10 minutes. So I think we don't have any more questions stuck in somewhere. I just checking.
Okay.
And thanks for everyone to join. I hope you all enjoyed the discussion today. And Kacper?
If you have any questions with regards to the meetup and how to organize them and speakers and so on, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
To help.
Just reach out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.